.pri, and then the username will be my name and then my password. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to choose the next button, and that's going to go out and try to identify if that machine, well, if it's out there. You'll see that it is, and that the agent needs to be temporarily installed on that remote source computer. And then I also have an option of whether I want to uninstall the files when the import succeeds. You really probably will want to do this. Think about it. I've got a domain controller or an Exchange server, whatever server that's out there in the physical world that needs to be converted into vCenter version 5. What I want to do is I want to remotely send out my little agents. I want to let the agents facilitate the conversion, and then once the conversion's done, well, then I want those agents off of that original computer. So let's click yes to automatically uninstall those files, and you'll see I'm going to go about deploying that agent onto that remote computer. Once the agent is complete, you'll see that we move then to the next screen. So now I have an agent that's sitting out on dc.company.pri. You can see the source here. I have to now choose the destination. Okay, where do I want to go? Do I want to go to VMware Workstation? Or do I want to go to VMware Infrastructure? I'm going to choose VMware Infrastructure. And the server that I'm looking for should, well, let's just plug it in here, vc.company.pri with the username and the password. If I choose Next, it should connect me to my virtual center infrastructure, and you'll see here's my data center. I have 2 VMs currently in there. They're currently powered off. This is essentially the destination that I'm looking for. Okay, good. This is a good thing. If I choose Next, all right, well, where inside of that virtual center environment do I want to go? Do I want to go on ESX1 or 2? And then also, do I want to give it one or more of the specific data stores that are there? Well, obviously, I want to put it in there for VM data store because that's the location that's the shared storage. And then also, do I want VM version 7 or version 8? So this will give me the options that I need for how to convert the virtual machine. There's another options tab up here that provides some more information for setting the hard drives and things like that if I want to make adjustments to the drive settings. If I complete this wizard, which I'm not going to complete because the process can take an extremely long time, it will go about completing the P2V of that machine, that physical computer, over to the virtual environment. Now, if you've played with Ghost before, or if you've done any kind of image deployment whatsoever, this process is terribly uninteresting. You watch a progress bar as it moves from one location to the other. So again, really not that much to see here. Now, what's interesting, however, is that a number of different tasks, because these processes can take a very long period of time, it is entirely possible for me to set these tasks up so that they complete, and then they provide me information about the job ID and where they came from and where they went and their status and start time and end time. If I wanted to also, instead of converting a machine, I can configure an existing VMware infrastructure virtual machine. So I'm not so much P2Ving at this point. I'm kind of V2Ving from within one VMware infrastructure location to another. This would allow me to take a VM from somewhere else, maybe it's in Workstation, maybe it's somewhere in vCenter, and then inject it into my existing vCenter environment. Again, fairly useful, very powerful, not terribly interesting to look at, but definitely important for how you will go about actually creating and deploying virtual machines and ultimately getting them into vApps if you find a need to do so. So what have we talked about in this nugget? We've talked about the kind of introductory processes associated with creating and deploying virtual machines and vApps. You got a feel for what those hardware versions are, and a little bit of information about hardware version 8 and kind of the new fun features associated with hardware version 8. We talked about virtual machines. We talked about when you'll take virtual machines and move them into vApps, and we even created and worked with some of those virtual machines. We have created and worked with the vApps as well, and even the VMware converter piece here. You'll notice here, install and work with the VMware tools. Actually, let me jump back here with the VMware tools because this is a very interesting piece that you need to be aware of also. The VMware tools a lot of times are going to be automatically installed by the installation if you're in VMware Workstation. Now, this may not necessarily be the case in ESX and vCenter. So there's one checkbox here that I forgot to actually show you earlier on that's associated with the virtual machine here under Guest. Now, you'll see Guest and install upgrade VMware tools. this is the location that you'll want to make sure that those VMware tools are actually installed after you complete installing an actual client with an actual operating system. So I'll play a little bit more with VMware tools when we get to the next nugget, but be aware that VMware tools are one of those absolute requirements once you completed installation, once you've created that VM and installed its operating system, to get that virtual machine functioning and interacting and communicating with the rest of the vCenter environment. So we talked about vApps, and then we spent a pretty good amount of time here also with VMware Converter.